Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, because today we are going to completely dismantle literally everything you thought you knew about hard work, discipline, and success. Seriously, if you've ever felt like you're putting in the hours, doing the grind, but just not moving forward, it's not because you lack motivation. Not at all. It's because you might be fighting against the very physics of success without even knowing it. Okay, let's dive into this. Close your eyes for just a second and think of three highly successful people you admire. Maybe it's a famous entrepreneur, a massive influencer, or a top-tier professional in your field. We all do this, right? You look at their habits, their morning routines, their discipline, and you think, that's the roadmap. But here's the major problem with that. You are only looking at the winners. You're effectively only looking at the returning bombers, while remaining completely blind to the thousands of invisible failures out there who followed those exact same routines, put in the exact same discipline, but never actually made it to the big leagues. To understand why our perception of success is so incredibly skewed, we have to look back at World War II. The US military was examining returning bombers, and they were carefully tracking where these planes took the most bullet fire, which happened to mostly be on the wings and the fuselage. So the logical conclusion? Put the heaviest armor right there. But a brilliant mathematician named Abraham Wald pointed out a fatal flaw in this logic. He said, you're only looking at the planes that survived. The planes that got shot where there are no bullet holes on the returning bombers, well, those are the ones that crashed. This cognitive trap is known as survivorship bias. It absolutely tricks us into believing that raw effort and motivation alone guarantee success, while we completely ignore the invisible underlying support systems that make surviving the struggle possible in the very first place. Just look at the data here. For half a century, we've been practically brainwashed by the famous 1972 marshmallow test. You know the story? The kids who could wait 15 minutes for a second marshmallow ended up richer and more successful, supposedly proving that raw willpower is the ultimate key to life. Well, actually, scratch that. In 2018, an NYU study using a massive sample size completely dismantled this 50-year-old myth. When researchers factored in a child's household income, the predictability of willpower dropped to zero. Zip. Kids weren't holding out because of raw discipline, they were holding out because children from stable environments inherently trusted the future. For kids from unstable environments, taking the immediate reward was actually the most logical choice. So success is about a predictable environment, not just sheer willpower. And unfortunately, the starting line is deeply unfair. Take a look at this. In a 2017 study by Raj Chetty analyzing 1.2 million American inventors, a pretty devastating truth emerged. A child from a top 1% wealthy family with below-average math skills is 10 times more likely to become an inventor than a highly intelligent child from the poorest 5%. 10 times. Your zip code often predicts your success far more accurately than your raw talent. The race is rigged with these invisible multipliers from day one. So, what does this all mean for us? How do we fix this? Well, think of your journey to success as driving a car. Your raw effort and hard work, that's the accelerator. The problem is that most people just mash the accelerator to the floor without realizing their windshield is totally foggy, meaning their perception is limited, and they're driving on a completely broken road, meaning they're playing the wrong game in the wrong environment. If you really want to redesign your probability of success, you can't just push the gas pedal harder. Let's look at the actual blueprint to fix the car. Gate 1, the perception gate, upgrading the windshield. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that to upgrade your windshield, you have to understand your brain only shows you the reality it's been trained to process. In a really profound 1970s MIT experiment, neuroscientists raised newborn kittens in an environment where they only ever saw horizontal lines. When they grew up, their eyes were perfectly healthy, but their brains literally could not process vertical edges. They would constantly bump into table legs because they simply couldn't see them. The same goes for us. If your brain is raised purely on scarcity, comparison, and survival, it physically cannot see high-level opportunities. They literally become invisible to you. To fix this and upgrade your perception, you have to reclaim your brain's operating capacity. Sleep research from UC Berkeley reveals that most of us are walking around at just 70% cognitive capacity because of endless digital scrolling and chronic sleep deprivation. Operating at 70% is like trying to solve a complex puzzle while legally drunk. It doesn't work. But by simply deleting toxic digital inputs, locking in 8 hours of sleep, and doing just 30 minutes of mild exercise, you can unlock a massive 25% boost in brain power. Just like that, things that used to take hours to figure out suddenly become totally obvious in minutes. This is exactly how characters like Raj and Rohan, who we'll talk about in a bit, unlocked massive cognitive potential. Gate 2, the selection gate, finding the exponential curve. Now that your windshield is clear, it's time to shift focus from how hard you work to what game you're actually playing. There are two fundamental systems you can operate in. Linear systems mean output strictly equals effort. You work 12 hours, you get paid for 12 hours. You're always capped by your physical limits. But exponential systems? They operate on the lily pad effect. Imagine a lily pad in a pond that doubles in size every single day. For the first 29 days, the pond looks empty and progress feels incredibly slow. But on day 30, boom, it completely takes over the pond. Average mindsets vastly underestimate exponential curves because the beginning is so boring and slow, which causes them to quit and jump right back onto the linear treadmill. It's why taking a massive, uncalculated risk can be so scary. But sometimes the exponential system demands it. So the crucial point is really driven home by this devastating discovery from a 2018 University of Catania simulation. Researchers mapped 1,000 people over 40-year careers. And the takeaway? The most successful people were rarely the most talented. In fact, the top performers were mostly completely average in raw talent. The difference? They were playing the right asymmetric game. Let that sink in. Average talent plus the right game will always, mathematically, beat top talent in the wrong game. So how do you find that right game? Through skill stacking. Trying to become the top 1% in a single, highly competitive skill is exhausting and statistically highly improbable. But what if you aim to be in the top 25% of 4 complementary skills? Let's say data analytics, storytelling, communication, and basic design. The mathematical probability of someone having that exact combination is 0.0039. It is significantly easier to hit the top 25% in a few distinct areas, yet combining them into that specific stack makes you far rarer and incredibly, incredibly valuable.
Gate 3, the signal gate, making talent visible.
Here is a harsh reality for sure. The world does not reward hidden talent, it only rewards visible proof. To make your talent visible, you have to subject yourself to the evolution loop law. You take action by putting your work out into reality. You get feedback from the market, you adaptively improve based on that data, and then you deploy the upgraded version. This is literally how all things in the universe evolve. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. 90% of people quit during the feedback stage. They put something out, get zero engagement, or their ideas ignored at work, and they just stop. They falsely expect instant success rather than committing to adaptive evolution. Gate 4, the flywheel gate. Let the work work for you. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. If you can survive that loop long enough, your effort finally transforms into self-sustaining momentum. This physics behind whether rich get richer is known as Albert Laszlo Barabasi's 1999 law of preferential attachment. This principle basically explains that when a node, which is you or your visible work, becomes highly connected, it naturally attracts even more connections at an exponential rate. It's exactly why 95% of traffic goes to the top 5% of accounts. Your visibility just starts to compound on itself. Let's look at a practical timeline of someone we'll call Raj to see this in action. For 18 months, Raj posted data insights with barely any traction. Crickets. But he didn't quit. He kept iterating. In month 19, his first post went viral with 400,000 impressions. By month 24, he hit 15,000 followers and started getting inbound job offers. By month 30, he reached 42,000 followers and was running paid consulting workshops. He didn't rely on luck. He deliberately spun his flywheel until his unique skills became a highly demanded, massive asset. And hey, this doesn't just apply to the digital space. Let's transition over and look at Rohan on a factory floor. In month 1, his efficiency reports were totally ignored by management, but he kept looping and improving. By month 6, he had solved enough bottlenecks that he was actually offered a supervisor role. Fast forward to month 24, his reputation had compounded so much that a major consultancy recruited him as an operations analyst. He used the exact same scientific principles to turn himself from an invisible factory worker into a highly paid system solver. The ultimate multiplier, the foundation of exponential growth. Okay, so you can have the skills, you can have the visibility and the flywheel, but there is one foundation that dictates how high that growth can actually go. Get this, data from the 80-year Harvard grant study reveals that the single largest predictor of life satisfaction and a massive driver of economic success isn't your IQ or your career choice, it's the quality of your primary romantic relationship. Men in stable romantic partnerships saw up to a 60% higher income compared to unpartnered men. A stable partner isn't just nice to have for emotional support, they are literal economic infrastructure. They multiply your flywheel while the wrong partner can completely derail it. Let's move to and see how this builds together to create real-world results. If we assign a mathematical score to their starting probability, Rahul, born with immense privilege, starts at 4,500, Raj starts at 756, and Rohan starts at a mere 100. But after 8 years of consciously applying these exponential laws, Raj's score explodes to over 453,000, and Rohan scales massively to 16,000. Success is an engineered probability architecture, folks. It's not just some miraculous lucky break you sit around hoping for. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one provocative thought. Take a hard, honest look at your daily habits, your environment, and the specific game you are playing right now. Which curve are you currently compounding on? Are you stuck on a linear path, just blindly mashing the accelerator on a broken road? Or are you actively building an architecture for exponential success? The physics are right in front of you. The choice of how you use them? Well, that's entirely yours.